Hello everyone and happy World Book Day. It makes me so pleased that we have a whole day that's specially for books, that's all about sharing stories with people you love, with your friends, with people at school, and just talking about how wonderful books are and the amazing places that books can take you. So today I want to share a story with you that is all about the power of stories. This is called The Story Kitten, and it's the story of two sisters and how they get their very own cat. "Tell me again," Lulu begged, clutching at Martha's pyjamas so that her big sister couldn't climb off her bed. "Again? I've already told you twice tonight, Lulu. It's time to sleep. Mum will be coming up to check on you soon. She'll be cross if we're still chatting." "No, she won't." Lulu made a pleading face. "She might pretend to be cross, but she'll just stay and listen to the story. You know she will. It's her favourite story too." "Oh, all right, but just one more time." Lulu nodded and curled closer round her sister, and Martha wriggled her feet under Lulu's duvet. It was a freezing cold night, and their bedroom was chilly. The wind was whistling, and the weather forecast had even said it might snow at the weekend. Not tonight, though, Mum had told them. The sky was too clear. Martha had looked out at the stars when she'd drawn the curtains. They hung in the sky, seeming close enough for her to touch, floating just beyond the branches of the old tree outside the window, caught in a net of its spindly twigs. Martha had thought she could reach out and pick a star, silver and sparkling, and make a wish on it. "Go on!" Lulu prodded her with one finger, and Martha smiled. "One day," the story always started the same way, "one day, maybe even quite soon, we'll have a kitten of our very own." "To keep," Lulu added. That was important. "Yes, to keep." "What will it look like?" "It will be a black kitten, black as night, but with a little white furry star under its chin and a long black tail with just a tiny touch of white at the end." Lulu nodded happily. She knew all this. Martha must have told the story 100 times by now, but Lulu loved to hear it. Her big sister made it sound so certain, so true. "And we'll call him Sam," Lulu said. Both Lulu and Martha thought Sam was a gorgeous name for a cat. "Will he sleep on my bed?" she asked dreamily. "Yes, most nights," her sister agreed. "Sometimes he'll sleep on my bed instead. Maybe Mum's bed too, every so often." Lulu nodded. That was fair. "And he'll play with us?" "Yes. We'll have to get him some cat toys, one of those feathery things you wave up and down, and a wind-up mouse to chase." "But Lucy at school says her cat never plays with his proper toys. He just steals bits of Lucy's brother's Lego and chases that all over the house." Lily frowned. "Maybe we should buy some Lego instead." She was silent for a moment, and Martha wondered if she was falling asleep at last. "Martha, how will we get the kitten?" Martha frowned. They hadn't thought about that before. Somehow their beautiful black and white Story Kitten was too special to have come from a pet shop like any ordinary cat. "He'll find us," Martha decided, "on a moonlit night full of stars, just like tonight. We won't know that he's coming. He'll walk straight through the night, and it will be so dark that no one will see him as he goes past, except for the little white tip of his tail, so it will look like a tiny white star floating by." "Will Sam be okay travelling all on his own?" Lulu asked anxiously. "He's only a very little kitten." "Yes, but he's an adventurer. I should think he's had lots of adventures already." Martha thought for a minute and smiled. "He's been a witch's kitten, but all those spells made him sneeze, so he had to give that up. And then he was the ship's cat on a pirate ship, but he got sick of nothing but fish to eat. He loves fish, of course, but he likes a change occasionally." Smoky bacon crisps, Lulu murmured sleepily. They're my favourite too. Did he ever get seasick? Yes, a little bit, just like you. So now he wants to settle down and find a forever home in a house that doesn't sway up and down. I just wish it wasn't so dark, Lulu murmured. But dark's good for a black kitten, Martha reminded her, and he can see perfectly in the dark too. Lulu suddenly sat up in bed. What colour are Sam's eyes? She asked excitedly. I've forgotten. Martha knew that she hadn't really. The kitten's eyes were one of Lulu's favourite parts. They're green, she reminded her sister, but not a bright green, a soft blue green like the sea. Maybe because he did some of his growing up on a pirate ship, she added. His eyes are like the sea round the Treasure Islands. Perhaps he really is coming tonight, Lulu suggested, her eyes shining. She pulled the duvet up to her chin and stared hopefully at Martha. Where is he now? I said a moonlit night, Lulu. That's all. A night like tonight. Not actually really tonight. But it could be, Lulu said stubbornly. It could be tonight, couldn't it? I suppose so, Martha sighed. She snuggled her cold toes further in, underneath the backs of Lulu's knees, and closed her eyes. She loved this story too, but she told Lulu about the kitten so many times now. She just wished it was all true, or that they could have any everyday cat. She wouldn't mind if it wasn't their little black story kitten. She'd love a tabby cat, or a ginger, a white cat even. She wouldn't care if the kitten that turned up was purple, to be honest, as long as it was theirs. Mum had said that they could have a cat one day, when they were a bit older, but she never said when. Martha sighed, and Lulu prodded her again. Where is he, Martha? Where's Sam now? Just walking towards school. He's come all the way across the fields and through the bluebell wood. Through the woods? What about the foxes and the badgers? Lulu squeaked. She'd been for walks in the woods, and they'd seen the badger holes. They looked big. He slipped past them all. Some of the time he went through the trees, jumping from branch to branch and tree to tree like a squirrel. And even if a fox did try to chase him, his claws are needle sharp and he fights like a pirate. He probably has a spell or two still hidden in those whiskers as well. There might be a really confused fox back in those woods, a green fox that keeps wanting to say ribbit and doesn't know why. I suppose so, Lulu agreed, but I still don't like to think about it. All those big, dark, shadowy trees with things lurking behind them, maybe. Oh. He'll be walking past the school now. He might even take a shortcut through the playground and see your classroom. And then he'll slip through the railings and out onto the street. He'll be coming the same way that we walk home from school. Oh, he'll go past all my favourite places, Lulu said excitedly. Is he going to go past the swings? Yes, he might go down the big slide, or maybe the scramble net. That would remind him of the pirate ship when he used to climb the rigging and sit in the crow's nest with the lookout. Then he'll be almost at our road. Martha sighed silently. She could picture it, the little black kitten stalking through the shadows, stopping here and there to pounce on a fallen leaf or sniff at an interesting smell floating out from under a hedge. Our road. Do you think he'll see Freddie and Coco? The girls stopped every morning on their way to school to say hello to the cats who lived close by. Coco was a fat white Persian with a plumy tail, and Freddie was ginger with emerald green eyes. There was a pond in his back garden, and his owner, Mrs. Dane, was always telling Lulu and Martha about the strange places Freddie had found to leave the frogs he caught. Once, she'd woken up to find Freddie next to her on the bed, and a small, very worried frog sitting on her pillow. I hope Freddie and Coco like Sam, Lulu murmured. Is he nearly at our house? Yes, Martha nodded. He slipped down the alleyway, past the wheelie bins. The gate's locked, so he wriggled under the hedge. He's in the garden, Lulu gasped. But we don't have a cat flap. How's he going to get in? Martha eyed her worriedly. It's only a story, Lulu, remember? I don't care. Tell me. He'll climb the tree. Martha nodded towards the window. It was still windy and the branches were tap-tapping against the glass. It was a spooky sort of noise, but the girls were used to it. I can hear him. Lulu stared wide-eyed at the window. Mewing! Didn't you hear, Martha? That's the wind. Sam's just a story, Lulu. One day we'll have our own cat, but this one's just a story kitten. It was him, Lulu said stubbornly. She pushed back the duvet and climbed out of bed. You'll see. Martha sighed and followed her little sister to the window. Lulu was hesitating, her fingers on the curtains, as though she didn't quite dare to pull them back. She wanted to believe so much. She didn't want to see just darkness and the tree. Martha put her arm round Lulu's shoulders and drew the curtains open. You see, she said, I'm really sorry, Lou. The wind mewed, louder and louder, and Martha shivered. But Lulu had frozen next to her. Look, she whispered. It's him, just like you said. Oh, Martha, he's come. Martha looked out of the window, her heart thumping so hard she felt dizzy. Balanced on the spindly branch was a small black kitten, with a white-tipped tail, mewing loudly and rather crossly now, as if to tell them to hurry up and let him in. Blinking, Martha turned the key and pushed the window open. The kitten stepped daintily down the branch and jumped onto the sill. His black fur was ruffled with the cold, but his sea-green eyes were shining. He rubbed his head against Lulu's cheek and peered mischievously up at Martha. Just like you said, Lulu whispered again, as she gently wrapped her arms around the little black kitten and cuddled him. You came all that way, Sam. Martha said you would. Oh, Martha, you're so clever. I wished, Martha murmured. I wished, and he came. I really loved writing that story because it's a story all about how special stories are, especially stories that you love and you know really well. And when I was little, my mum and I used to make up stories together about our stray kitten who was called Rosie. She turned up one day in my dad's office and we adopted her as a family. She was lovely. And my mum and I used to imagine all the adventures that she'd had before she managed to find my dad. And it was a really special part of our family, that story about our lovely kitten, Rosie. So I hope you have a brilliant World Book Day and that you get to tell somebody else about your favourite story. Bye everybody. Speak to you soon.